Hi there everyone, Jack here again, back on the vinyl voyage. So the other day I was scrolling around YouTube, watching some vinyl community videos, when I stumbled across a new channel, which was called gavaxemanspins. Now Gav did a video that was a little bit of a reaction to all the big spending that had went on surrounding Record Store Day. Lots of the big buys and a lot of money getting spent. And it kind of showed that there was a bit of an alternative to all the big spending, that there is still cheaper records out there and bargains to be had. So the video that he did was called 20 Valueless Records According to Discogs, or Are They? And it was a really cool video. I'll put a link to Gav's channel in my description. Go over, check out his channel and support him, please. But I'd thought about doing a video like this for a while as well, and I was going to kind of tailor mine a lot along the lines of how to build up your collection, or how to start a collection on a budget. Times are quite tight at the moment. There's not as much of the old moolah floating around. People are working to budgets. Record collecting's an expensive hobby, and if you can save a penny here or there, especially at the start when you're building your collection, that's a good thing. And that's what I'm going to try and do here. This is by no means having a go at people who like to buy expensive records or show off their expensive records. I'm as partial to a Vertigo swirl as the next man, but just a few ideas on how you can maybe save a few pence. Now, before I get into the records, a couple of things that I like to do, or I generally do, whether I'm buying expensive or cheaper records. If I'm buying off of eBay or Discogs, I pretty much always ask the seller, is that their best price? Because if you can bring it down a little bit, there's no harm in asking. If it's a fixed price and the seller doesn't want to bring it down, then fine, his records, his rules, his prices. But at the same time, like I said, there's no harm in asking, especially if you're buying, maybe 2 or 3 records. There's always a chance that they might cut you a deal. Another thing as well, I think you can save a few pounds with, is with 80s presses, especially with more expensive records from maybe the late 60s or early 70s. You can maybe get a later press, an 80s press. They're usually a bit cheaper. But then at the same time, to caveat that, I always check on Discogs the comments to make sure that I'm not buying like a really inferior sounding press. But that can be another way that you can save a bit of money as well. Like I said before, if you buy maybe 2 or 3 items, you can usually maybe negotiate a better price, or at least combine the postage. Now, another thing that's maybe a little bit more risky, that carries an element of risk, is if you find a seller who you start to trust, who you've bought a number of times off of on Discogs or eBay. Once you've bought once, you can exchange contact details, whether that's a mobile phone or email details. And I've did it with a number of sellers where I then started to buy off them outside of the platform. So I've got a guy who I would buy off of from Italy, who sold to me a number of times, and to save him his Discogs fee, he cuts me a better deal, and I can then buy direct from him I can buy direct from him rather than having to pay his inflated price to cover, maybe the charges that he has over Discogs. But obviously there is a riskier element to that, because if things go wrong, then you don't have as much cover, you're not insured, you might not get your money back. But I think, generally speaking, if you find a good seller who you trust and who you've bought off a number of times, that seller's unlikely to want to lose you as a customer for the sake of a few pounds. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship, I think. And certainly, if it's someone that you trust, I think that can be a good way to save money, especially if you do start buying more expensive items. So let's get into the records. Like I said, there's no Vertigo swirls here. There's no unboxed Decas. There's no solid blue triangles. All of these are cheap as chips. Everything I'm going to show is pretty much under a fiver. There's a few where I really push the boat out up to £6. I think they're the most expensive, but most of them are under a fiver. And I've not shown anything that Gav showed in his video either. So without further ado, let's get on with it. So the first one then is a 2016 release from Jake Bugg, singer-songwriter, young guy from Nottingham. And this one is called On My One. I think that's like slang for, or Nottingham slang for On My Own. And I think the reason why he called the album that is it's his first album, but he produces it and he solely writes the album himself. But yeah, it's a cool album. Not as good as his debut album. Not as good as his debut album, which was really, really good. But he takes more chances on this. It got mixed reviews as a result. It's like kind of mixed genre, mostly singer songwriter, but he tries almost like a little bit of a rap on one, and there's kind of more upbeat stuff as well. So I still think it's pretty good. Recently, Jake Bugg's been supporting Liam Gallagher and John Squire on his tour. He was really, really good on that tour as well. But this is a cool album. You can pick this up for the princely price of £2.50. Mint copies of it at the moment on Discogs for £2.50. I think the median is something like £4. So for the rest of the albums, I'll kind of go off the median and I'll stick the Discogs bit up here as well. So here's the first one. Right, I had to grab my laptop there. I can't remember all Discogs prices, so you'll see me glancing down from time to time. So next up then is Fill Your Head with Rock. This was a Columbia sampler from 1970, and this goes for about £4.60, so cheaper than a pint of beer. I love these samplers, they're really cool. They gave people back in the day a chance to listen to lots of different artists before going and buying an expensive album. So you get loads of great stuff on here. Laura Nero, Taj Mahal, Leonard Cohen. Let's see who else is on here. You've got The Trees, The Garden of Jane Delaunay. That's like really expensive record if you were to buy that record. You've got Moondog, Janis Joplin, Just Try a Little Bit Harder. Taj Mahal's version of 6 Days on the Road's my favourite one. Absolutely brilliant. The Flock, The Birds, Gunga Din. Yeah, so good. Cheaper than a pint. Okay, next up then we have Donovan's debut album. It's been What's Been Did and What's Been Hid. Unfortunately, got that moniker of the British Dylan, but the Scottish minstrel, Donovan, much more than that. This is not just a bargain of an album, this is an absolutely amazing album. I'd pay a lot more than £2.50 for it. £2.50, what can you buy for £2.50 these days? But absolutely brilliant. It's on that cheap Marble Arch label. I'm not sure what he was on initially. Was it Pie? But yeah, loads of great songs on here. Catch the Wind. Catch the Wind. You pay £2.50 just for that alone. The Alamo's amazing. Josie is really, really good. But yeah, what a fantastic album. Really, really good album. I love this. Okay, next up then, what have we got? Oh, Beauty, the Midnight Cowboy soundtrack. And this goes for about £2.50 as well. Cheap as chips. So it's kind of split between John Barry's orchestration. You've got that amazing title track by Harry Nilsson, Everybody's Talking, written by Fred Neil. And then, but there's loads of other great stuff on here as well. So I love that song, He Quit Me Man by Leslie Miller. That was, it's like a kind of funky number. It was written by Warren Zevon. Got to say Zevon, I get picked up the last time I mentioned Warren Zevon because I said Warren Zevon. I get told off. But then there's two bands who play on this as well. Some of the more kind of psych and kind of soulful psych type stuff. But there's one called The Group. They do A Famous Myth. That's kind of sunshine pop. But then you've got this other group called Elephant's Memory. That song there, Jungle Gym at the Zoo, is absolutely brilliant. Really funky kind of psych number. And if you don't know, Elephant's Memory were a band that went on to be John Lennon's live band, Elephant's Memory. So I'd like to check out their album. I've never actually heard it. Yeah, there's a bit of kind of lounge exotica on here. The track Joe Buck Rides Again is really, really good. Midnight Cowboy with that harmonica. John Barry's kind of orchestration work is really, really good. But yeah, cheap as chips again. Another link to Warren Zevon, his old pal, Jackson Browne. This is Late from the Sky, probably his best album, I think. Either that or for me, For Every Man, or his best two. But this one is from, let me see, £4. £4 for some top class singer songwriter stuff from 1974. Yeah, there he is. Jackson Browne. So yeah, an absolute bargain again. Let's see. Oh, some kind of orchestral psych. talking £3.73 for this, On the Threshold of a Dream, the Moody Blues. And then even for that, you get quite a lavish record with all the lyrics and stuff. Yep, some chart-friendly 60s UK psych, but all their albums are really, really cheap and half decent. Okay, another absolutely classic one next then. We have another big hitter. We've got Johnny Cash live at San Quentin from 1969. This is going for just under £6. What an album. Probably one of my favourite live albums. You can see all those images there from the Granada television special and the track listing. Some of the songs on here. Wanted Man, that's that one that he did with Bob Dylan. I can't remember, did Bob Dylan write it on his own, or was it a co-write? It was... Oh, it was Dylan that wrote it himself. I had a feeling that was Cash and Dylan that wrote that together. But hey ho, brilliant. I love Wanted Man. Obviously, I Walk the Line. San Quentin's so good that he does it twice. A Boy Named Sue, Folsom Prison Blues. The guitar sound in this is amazing. It almost sounds like punk to me. It's like such a heavy kind of load of fuzz and overdrive, especially when he plays San Quentin. Brilliant. One of my favourite live albums. Another singer-songwriter then. We've got Paul Simon, his debut album from 1972. This is a beauty. I love Simon and Garfunkel. Gav showed Bridge Over Troubled Water, which you can obviously pick up really, really cheap. It's a masterpiece, one of my favourite albums. But yeah, you can get all their albums cheap. This one will set you back about a fiver. It's cheap as well. Like most of Paul Simon's back catalogue, it's cheap. Like you can get the Rhymin' Paul Simon, or There Goes Rhymin' Simon, I should say, for a couple of quid. Some great songs on here. Mother and Child Reunion, Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard, Duncan, Paranoia Blues. Good stuff. Can't beat a bit of Paul Simon. Next, 1982, we've got Pig Bag with Dr. Heckle and Mr. Jive. This is like a kind of bit of a hot pot of mainly ska influence, I think. Sounds a little bit experimental at times, but yeah, just kind of really upbeat. It's got very 80s production. Yeah, worth a listen, worth a couple of quid. You can get this for £4.28 if you want to get some upbeat ska, some Pig Bag. It's got a cool cover, like these dudes. Okay, some more singer-songwriter stuff. Then this is from 1970. Forget about Leonard Cohen, forget about Neil Young. Here's the real Canadian singer-songwriter, Gordon Lightfoot, with If You Could Read My Mind. And this went for, let me see, £4.63. Initially, this was called Sit Down Young Stranger, but then obviously If You Could Read My Mind was like a bit of a mega smash, so they changed the album on the title on the reissue. This is really good. Good cover of Me and Bobby McGee. Approaching Lavender's really nice. Obviously, the title track itself is a beauty. Yeah, cheap as chips, and another good one. So many different genres as well to be had for cheap. We've got some Tamla Motown, some soul with the Four Tops. This is a compilation, 1964 to 72, a double. And this will set you back the princely sum of £4.65. But loads of great stuff on here. You've got some Phil Spector, River Deep Mountain High, Reach Out I'll Be There, Holland Dozier in Holland. Yeah, loads of great stuff. Sugar Pie Honey Bunch. Let me see, Shake Me, Wake Me, MacArthur Park, and Jimmy Webb. Oh, yeah, so much on here. This is brilliant. For under a fiver. So we've got the Monkees' second album. You can get the first one for cheap as well. More of the Monkees from 67. This was, let me see, this was like a couple of pound as well, I think, maybe £3. This is an Australian press of it. But yeah, it's not expensive. Great songs on there, like She, I'm Not Your Stepping Stone, I'm a Believer, Your Auntie Griselda. But yeah, all killer, no filler. This is as good as anything, I think. in terms of like kind of sunshine pop. There's a few Mike Nesmith numbers in there as well, but look at them. Dolan's, Torque, Nesmith and Jones, look at their cheeky wee faces. They're saying buy me, less than a fiver. This one, some more Tamla Motown, I Was Made to Love Her. This was less than a fiver as well. Amazing album. Can I Get a Witness? I Pick the Fool, Please, Please, Please. I Was Made to Love Her. Probably my favourite Stevie Wonder song. Respect, My Girl. Too good. Yeah, less than well, that was about a fiver, that one. If you want to get cheap records, 80s comps of older bands, you can pick stuff up really cheaply. This is the early years of Manford Man, before they became the Earth Band. And is it from 63 to 66? With Paul Jones on vocals. Loads of good stuff on here. This is about £4 as well, on one of these kind of cheap labels. I'm not sure. Oh, Music for Pleasure. They're always cheap. But 54321, Do My Diddy. The one in the middle, If You Got to Go, Go Now. Pretty Flamingo. Shalala. With God on Our Side, the old Dylan song. Lots of good stuff. I love early Manford Man. And yeah, a couple of quid. Let's see what was next. And under a fiver, another soundtrack, the Easy Rider soundtrack. The movie from '69. But yeah, it's just an absolutely amazing soundtrack. It's like one of my favourite soundtracks. Pick it up for less than a fiver. Steppenwolf, The Wait. That's the one kind of weird thing with it. I think in the movie, The Wait, is it Dylan's version? It's in the movie, but I don't think they could get the license to use Dylan's for the soundtrack. So they use that version by Smith. Holy Modal Rounders. Crazy. If You Want to Be a Bird. I love Wasn't Born to Follow. That kind of acid guitar break towards the end is one of my favourite bits of music of all time. Kiri Ellison, Mardi Gras by the Electric Prunes. It's Alright Ma, I'm Only Bleeding. Man, for less than a fiver, come on. That's as good as it gets. Amazing. Righty. A little bit of kind of power pop from '85. It's The Rain Parade with Crashing Dream. So this is their second album. And you can pick this up. Oh, we're spending a bit more now. This is £6. Not as good as their debut. Dave Roback had left by then. Stephen Roback taken over kind of as the main man, his brother. It's still good, this. It's a lot slicker. It sounds kind of more 80s. But it's still kind of jangly power pop. Production isn't quite as good, I don't think, but still a good album. You know, for £5-6, it's a no-brainer. And finally, we've got some Afrobeat with Ossie Bisa, and this album is Woyaya. And if you don't know Ossie Bisa, they were formed in London, the early 70s. They're all Ghanaian musicians. This one would set you back about £6.48. You get that nice Roger Dean artwork. There's the band in there. I do like Ossie Bisa. I like that second track on here a lot. This is an Australian press. It's called, is it Y Sharp? And I'm sure that Ian Brown from the Stone Roses stole the guitar riff off of Y Sharp at the beginning for his first single. What was it called again? Oh, what was it called? My Star. I'm sure he stole that. Yeah, this is really, really good. Great percussion in here, lots of cool instruments. What have we got? Tenor sax, flute, African drums, bongos, cowbells, flugelhorn, trumpet. Oh, too much. Baritone sax. The whole Ossie Bisa choir. Top gear. So one last one then. If singer-songwriters aren't your thing, you don't like Tamla Motown, you're not into Ghanaian Afro-pop, fair enough, I've got you covered. Get yourself some Shawody Wody. I didn't even bother going on to Discogs because you can't put a price on Shawody Wody. That's me. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you wish. If not, I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.
Die neuen Galaxien ziehen sich um und ihre Masse gegenseitig an. Sie steuern aufeinander zu, rotieren, durchdringen sich und verschmelzen zu neuen großen Galaxien. Das Resultat sind Spiralgalaxien wie unsere Milchstraße, die aus 100 Milliarden Sternen besteht. Ein Teil der Sterne ist im hell leuchtenden galaktischen Zentrum konzentriert, von dem eine große Anziehungskraft ausgeht. Selbst Licht gerät in dessen Sog und kann ihn nicht mehr verlassen. Wir blicken auf ein schwarzes Loch. In den Spiralarmen der Galaxien entstehen Haufen neue Sterne. Die Energie für ihr Leuchten wird aus der Verschmelzung von Wasserstoff zu Helium. Diese Prozesse dauern bis heute an. Doch in großen Sternen ist Wasserstoff schnell verbraucht. Druck und Temperatur sind so hoch, dass nun schwerere Elemente gebildet werden. Am Ende stürzt der Stern in sich zusammen und explodiert als Supernovae. Gas und Staubwolken liefern das Material neuer Sternengenerationen. Vor rund 4